Hello everyone, it's me Alyan Fiverrwala, and today I'm live with very special guest, Dr. Miss Toni, a multifaceted individual with a diverse range of talent and passion, embodies a unique blend of roles and experience that have shaped their remarkable journey as a practicing physician. They possess a deep understanding of the intricacies of the human body and mind. So, hello, Miss. How are you?
Hi, great. Thank you for having me on your show.
I am very thankful to you to coming in my show and giving me a precious and valuable time. Thank you so much, Miss, for coming. Thank you so much. Okay. So, before moving on a question, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. So I'm Dr. Tony. I'm a founder of Dr. Tooney, my own business. I used to be a medical doctor, a gynecologist, and also general practitioner in primary care. And then I transitioned into starting my own business as a cartoonist, which was my childhood dream, but still maintaining the healing that I was so drawn to providing now as a more holistic life coach, relationship coach, sex educator, and mental health advocate.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. Okay, so my first question in your screen. Can you tell us about your journey and how you managed to balance your career as a physician with your creative pursuit like cartooning?
Absolutely. It was pretty tough because, especially in the US, medical training, they had you work 80 hours a week. But I always managed to carve out time because art is what relaxed me. It was my self expression. I always grew up drawing all the time. But when things got busy, I just always made sure to set aside at least 5 minutes each day. Oh, and then now after I completed the medical training, I had more options to work more on a part-time basis or seasonally or leave it entirely for periods of time, in which case then I get to fully devote myself to what I most love to do.
Oh, great. Okay, so what inspired you to become a cartoonist alongside your medical profession?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it was always my dream from childhood. As far as back as I can remember, it was just something I loved to do in my free time. I love using my creativity and my imagination and really putting down all of my crazy ideas onto paper and expressing it in a fun and usually unconventional way, which I find thought provoking because it really accesses more of the right sides of our brains. And I think it can help people, whether in an education or advocacy way, it helps them absorb and digest different messages or see them in a new way, which may help them remember it more. So it really was a wonderful compliment to all of this other work that I've been doing.
All right. So, how do you believe your experience as a physician informs your work as a self love and relationship coach?
I think there's definitely a lot of overlap. I know that as a physician, I was trained a lot in the body and in general physical health. And I believe in being a self love and relationship coach, it's really a holistic approach to wellness, taking care of not just your physical body, but your mind, your spirit, your emotions, and just everything. So I think it provided a really great base. I see more as a traditional Western doctor as a subset of a general holistic healer. And it helped me hone a lot of skills, such as connecting deeply with patients, often in a limited amount of time, and asking very powerful, impactful questions, and really getting to the root of what's troubling them in their lives.
All right. Okay. So, could you share some key insight from your coaching practice that have made a significant impact on individual lives?
Absolutely. There are so many. One thing that I found that comes up a lot with my clients and with my own journey as well is just that we think that it's always going to be a linear or very smooth process to get from where we are to where we hope to be or our dreams or goals. But it's very often this very circuitous way that setbacks are often or detours. And really, that's part of the beauty of life, and learning to embrace that while you're still enjoying every step of your journey. That really is the core of my program, which is the Authentic Acceptance Signature Program, is one of many that I offer, but that one is the closest to my heart because that's the journey that I went through. Other things that have come up from coaching is that finding that it's the same way that it's not just A to B and there's a definite endpoint. There's all these small things along the way, and those are really to be celebrated. It's like if I was, for example, a physical trainer and a client came to me saying, I want you to help me get a six pack. It's not that we failed if they didn't get a six pack by the end of our 3 months working together. It's everything that they did. It's the person that they became. It's like if you put in the reps, if you do the work. So I see coaching as more like going to the mental or the emotional or the spiritual gym. And all of that will pay off, even if you don't get the exact result that you were gunning for. Like you will definitely be stronger in so many ways, and it will definitely have benefited you a lot along the way. And I help my clients get out of this black or white, all or nothing thinking. And I would say another thing that happens up a lot is finding out just how much that we humans have a negativity bias, which is when we focus more on like negative things have more a bigger impact on us. Usually it's needs you need five positive things to balance out one negative thing. And ideally the ratio is 20 to 1, but at minimum 5 to 1. So I really help my clients see all of the ways that their lives are great and all of their efforts are paying off and what they're doing is working. So that's just been really, really rewarding in my work.
That's awesome. So, how do you believe your experience as a physician from your work as a self love and relationship coach?
Oh, sorry, did you already ask that?
Oh, my mistake. Sorry. Okay. So, could you share some key insights coaching practice that have made a significant? Oh, sorry. It's also I am again sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. So, how do you find and maintain a sense of stability and well-being while leading a nomadic lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a great question. It certainly is challenging. I've been a nomad for 5 years, on and off, not just around my home country, the US, but all over the world. And a lot of times I don't know the language or the culture or anyone there. I find that what helps provide the stability is me doing maintaining some kind of routine, self-care routine that I can carry with me anywhere. I think there are a lot of universal things that you can find no matter where you are too. Like I can appreciate trying out new foods or cooking for myself. I really like sports, so I try to always find ultimate frisbee or badminton or even some dancing events wherever I go and really meet people that way. And I think just general other self care and spiritual practices such as meditation and journaling and being out with nature and connecting with myself every day for at least an hour if I have the time, more if I can, and if I'm really busy, then at least 5 minutes, as I said from earlier too. But definitely, nomading is so cool. It's such an amazing lifestyle that we have now. I know I didn't say that as part of my introduction from earlier, but there are a lot of nomads now, people who choose to work online as they slowly integrate work and travel and really expanding themselves and pushing themselves outside their traditional boundaries before we had internet to make this possible.
Yeah. So, what role has self love played in your personal and professional life journey, and how do you teach others to cultivate it?
Yeah, I found that self love has truly been the key to everything. Like it affects and touches every single area of life. I know for me, I've struggled with it for so long, and it's still an ongoing journey and process. And I need to put my reps in at my mental gym too, because I grew up with a very difficult, high pressure family, being Chinese American immigrants, and they were always criticizing me or nitpicking on what I lacked and how I'm not doing this right or how I'm not enough. It caused me to develop a very harsh inner critic, and so learning to really develop self-love for myself as well as self-compassion, self-acceptance, all of that has really made life so much more enjoyable, easier, peaceful, and I still am naturally motivated to go for my dreams and excel. I just feel more relaxed and free to be who I am by no longer feeling that there's something wrong with me or that I need to change myself. I know that I am a unique human being and I have a unique place in the world, and there are things that only I can do. And I help my clients really tap into their strengths and what that is for themselves too. From with variety of practices, some of them are more cerebral, like journaling, doing guided meditations, and doing some like neural NLP work and exercises. So there's just a variety of conscious tools and practices and exercises that we do together and in our time between sessions to really rewire their brains and strengthen healthier neural pathways for them.
All right. So, can you share some of your favorite mental health resource or practice for those struggling with their mental well-being?
Absolutely. I know that when I was in my darkest point where I felt trapped in my first career, in my medical career, because I felt like I had already committed to this, even though it really wasn't what I wanted to be doing. It was too late to change, or I couldn't afford to disappoint or upset or even lose my family over it. And time, and what helped me out of it was really pooling together multiple things, but one thing was just like putting together a list of like what do I still look forward to in life, what keeps me going. If you're really struggling with your mental health, it can be hard to find anything exciting. So maybe think of what used to excite you, what you used to love as a kid, or maybe even just trying out some new things, or old things, because sometimes just the act of doing something can help bring the feelings rather than just thinking about it. Also, another one that I love a practice is just writing out like all of the worst moments you've had in your life, all of the toughest times, and reminding yourself, hey, you're still here. You're still alive. You've survived those. You've survived 100% of all of your worst days. So here's your rock solid evidence that you'll get through this dark time too. And if this is helpful, also making some kind of joy library, or however you want to call it, of comforting, lifting pictures, videos, quotes, phrases, maybe compliments from others, just anything that helps you remind yourself how wonderful you are and pick yourself up. In terms of resources, there are so many out there. And just off the top of my head, I think that support groups are really great because I think our mental health definitely worsens when we feel isolated, especially with what happened with COVID recently. And there are plenty of even free support groups out there, like sevencups.com, where you can find compassionate volunteers to listen to you vent either over a call or messaging. And I believe it's free, or there's some paid plans. And then there's support groups, even like Codependence Anonymous, Al Anon. There are so many. And of course, there's so many self-help books that really are great too. I know the first one, perhaps one of my first, was called The Happiness Equation by Neil Parisha. And that one really helped me a lot because I think he had 9 chapters and 9 principles of happiness, and they all really resonated with me and gave me hope during my dark times.
Wonderful, amazing. So, how do you adapt to different cultural perspective on self-love and relationship during your travels?
Yeah, that's always one of the most interesting and rewarding parts of my work, I think, to learn what this means to different people from different cultures and places. I try to always be respectful, and I understand it's not just a one size fits all model. I try to really dig deep and find out specifically what matters to them, what are their values, how they define self love, and how they would want their ideal relationships to look like, and then help them figure out how to move closer to that. There were some interesting moments. For example, in Morocco, there is a double standard for men and women getting married, that they would expect the woman to have a white wedding, meaning that she's not had any partners before her husband, but they didn't have such an expectation for the men. And they could even, the groom's family could even um, outright ask for a doctor to examine the bride, which I just want to say that's a myth. There's no way you can confirm that from a medical exam. Um, but secondly, it also was just such an unfair double standard. And so in those moments, I just gently challenge, or just bring a different perspective from another culture and just ask about that. But I always try to be respectful. And I think it's so interesting just finding out what matters to different people.
All right. So, could we provide some example of how you cartooning has been used to address mental health or relationship topics?
Absolutely. So I often draw more in the cute style, using humor to make them funny, or telling a more touching or compelling longer story. Some of my shorter comics I've made have just been a few panels long. For example, the 5 Asian love languages, kind of illustrating very relatable parts of Asian culture in just the 5 illustrations. And another one is being the self love shoes. It's a metaphor for really investing in buying your own shoes, not always trying to borrow other people's shoes, because they may not be the right fit for you. What works for someone else doesn't tend to work for you. And so once you have that, you're just better equipped to get through life or get through the winter. And for a longer one, I am working on, I haven't published it yet, but a longer comic. It's so far 30 chapters on addressing some issues in mental health, a lot of what teenagers especially struggle with, such as body image issues, bullying, eating disorders, and just also expectations on women, because it takes place in Japan. And many cultures just expect women to give up any of their career dreams in order to become a homemaker.
All right. So, what are some common misconceptions people have about self-love, and how do you address them in your coaching?
Yeah, I think a big myth is that self love is the same as self care. It certainly is part of it. The practices, the self care practices of pampering yourself, doing nice things for yourself, and checking in with yourself too on what you really want and need. But I think self love is a little bit more subtle than that, and invisible even, because it's the little things that really add up and that matter in the split second moments. For example, just not shaming yourself when you make a mistake, or comparing yourself to others when you're feeling not enough or too much. When you have these automatic negative thoughts about yourself or negative feelings, that you can also just hold that space for it, just accept it, and just say, that's okay. I'm not meant to be perfect. And really, that I think is true self love. Another big myth that I've found is that self love, people think it means that, oh, self love means that I don't need anybody else, that because I love myself so much that I don't care about anyone else. And that's not true either, because humans were meant to be interdependent, tribal, social creatures to an extent. It's different for everyone, their social needs, but it is totally normal. It's not being too dependent or codependent to rely on someone else and to open yourself up in that way. But I think a lot of times when we don't really know ourselves or don't really love ourselves, then it's hard for us to authentically relate to people. And so I think that really is, as I said, just the core and the root of so many things, so many issues. And then once we address that, then that can really change people's lives in so many areas. And as I mentioned, that we address this in many ways, and my process has a lot of tools to choose from, and it's customized for what is effective for each client as we practice them and we find out what works for them or not. And things like that could be, for example, something like parts work, where it's more from internal family systems, where you separate out the different voices and sides of yourself so you can just see yourself from different angles and gain some new insights.
Great. So, how do you maintain a sense of connection with your clients and audience while constantly moving as a nomad?
Yeah, that is tough, right? I started an online community 4 years ago, and it's still ongoing. I do at least an event once a month, sometimes twice a month. Some are more casual, like getting together and co working together, and some are more structured, working on a specific thing, such as inner child healing, or making a vision board together, or doing something creative together. I use this to connect people all over with other like minded people. And as I travel too, I host some in person meetups and events. And I love bringing people together, whether within my group programs or workshops or just directly introducing them as well. I'm really blessed, I feel, to have a global community so that on every continent and it's great to know more nomadic people like myself as well. Then we can choose to intentionally sync up our travels for some of the time too.
All right. So, what's the next on your journey? Are there any exciting projects or goals you'd really like to share with us?
Absolutely. I thing I've noticed is that I am so multi-passionate. There are always a bunch of things I'm working on at the same time. At the moment, my biggest one is publishing my book, my memoir, on or before Lunar New Year in February, which is about honoring your family and yourself too. I'm really excited about that one. Just talking about my journey with the filial piety and expectation, the Chinese part of my identity, and really also figuring out how to individuate and still honor and respect them and consider them, but not abandon myself. And that talks a lot about self love and mental health and learning to be your authentic self as well, and figuring out what works for everyone in between. I also have some children's books, and as I mentioned, the longer comic in the works too, but I don't think that will be released by the end of this year. My own podcast is also, I just started a few months ago. I'm always happy and looking for guest speakers too. And of course, my signature programs, Authentic Acceptance, is one on one. And I also have a Sacred Sex Ed group program. And I'm offering new potential clients a sample session if they'd like. My big goal for this year is to help at least 100 people from high pressure backgrounds really see themselves more clearly with love and acceptance and compassion, whether from working directly together or from any of the products that I've made, like books, courses, or other resources, or my groups or events.
That's great. Thank you so much again for giving me a precious and valuable time for the interview. I hope everybody also learned something new with your talk. Thank you so much again for your valuable and wonderful time for the interview. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Thank you so much.